Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today at UUCP virtually. Thank you for having me and inviting me. And I have to say, spring is my favorite season. I love the flowers blooming. Hopefully they don't mess with my allergies too much. I love when the temperature starts to get warm, but not too hot. And growing up as a Phoenician, spring for me started in March, right? That's kind of around where it starts to feel like spring here. March is the month of spring break. It's my birthday month. And so March is typically my favorite month of the year, except maybe March of 2020. That was a little bit different. But that means that this spring is even more special, right? This spring is even more exciting, and I bet you can guess why. We've all been through a long COVID winter. And spring brings with it the promise of change. Vaccines are on the horizon. I just had my second shot on Friday, and many of you are getting yours too. Some of you are already done. And as we think about leaving our COVID winter behind, there's so many spring analogies, right? When we think about the Easter story from last week of rolling away the stone from the entrance to the tomb and emerging after those dark 3 days, what kind of world will we see? As we come out of this long period of social distancing, what has changed? Has anything changed? We can consider the pagan tradition of Ostara, a celebration of new life and rebirth. What will be born anew? In a post-COVID world, what can a rebirthed society look like? What can we make happen together? Now, some of us might engage in a ritual of spring cleaning, of deciding, do items in our life still bring us joy? And what if, besides just clearing out old clothes and kitchen gadgets, what if we looked at our community and our society and said, does this still bring us joy? What would we get rid of? We know that there are so many systemic inequalities here for us in the US, in Arizona, in Phoenix. They were here before, and under COVID, they got worse. Now for me, over the last year, I was able to keep working from home. I could isolate myself and my family and mostly had what I needed. But we know that for so many of us, that wasn't the case. So many essential workers, they couldn't leave their jobs, or maybe they lost their jobs. There were so many kids who didn't have a choice but to be in school, and so many folks struggling, while community members, family members, and friends around them were sick or dying. So when we think about what changes will happen this spring, as we leave behind our period of social distancing and our experience of this COVID winter, what can we do to dream together of a new future? Our Together Time story today asked us to imagine the seeds we're planting now. How will you contribute to our collective garden? What labor are you willing to put in, and how will you do that so that we can awake to a different world? The hymn we just heard from our friends at UU Ann Arbor asked us, change is coming. What do we need to imagine? Now, to answer that question, we have with us today 4 dreamers. First, we'll hear from Maxima Guerrero. Max is a community partner who was arrested this summer during the uprisings as she was protesting police violence and the killings of George Floyd and Deion Johnson. Now, she was there as a legal observer, and when the police broke up the protest, she was getting in her car to leave. She was dragged out of her car by the police and arrested. Even though she had done nothing wrong, and because she was a DACA recipient, once she was in police custody, there was imminent danger of her deportation. But her community responded. So many people called, emailed, took to social media, and gathered and made noise at the 4th Avenue jail, demanding Maxima's release, including some UUs. And by the power of community, she was freed. Now, she organizes at the state legislature against a bill that would criminalize others for exercising their right to protest. Next, you'll hear from Laura Ilardo. Laura runs Keep Phoenix Together, which is a group that holds free DACA legal clinics. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and it's a government program that allows folks who migrated to the US as children to escape deportation. It requires a lot of paperwork and documentation. Could you show someone every address you've lived at for the last 15 years? It also requires an annual $495 renewal fee. Now, as you may already know, UUJAZ supports these clinics with staffing, supplies, scholarship funds, and volunteers. Many of these volunteers are UUs just like you. Now, after Laura, you'll meet Eddie Chavez Calderon. Eddie is an organizer with Arizona Jews for Justice and a DACA recipient himself. J4J has been organizing in-person protests, so if you're fully vaxxed and the seed that you want to plant is to show up outside ICE or detention center, then our friend Eddie is tending that garden. Finally, we'll have Ileana Marari join us. Some of you may remember Ileana from UUCP when she attended with her late partner, Celso, several years ago. She organizes with Aliento, creating art and community and power with other documented and undocumented folks. As we listen to the dreams our partners have for the future, let us reflect on the powerful ways that these folks from communities that have been hit hardest by COVID, they are the most marginalized by our society, they are claiming their leadership. We'll cover today, here and in the chat, so many ways to get engaged in building out our post-COVID world. From donations to the Undocumented Workers Relief Fund that we're matching today, to contacting your legislatures, from protesting in person or in your car, to volunteering at the DACA clinic, to phone banking with your neighbors like Amy. Let us reflect today on what our individual role, our responsibility is. And in this spring season of renewal, let's follow these dreamers' leads and make our dreams for the future real.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me here today. My name is Maxima Guerrero. I am a longtime community organizer here in Tohono O'odham territory, so-called Phoenix. And for the past 10 years, I've been able to engage in different campaigns. And what led me to joined this movement was really my immigration status. And being undocumented, and especially in 2010 during SB 1070, having multiple laws that were anti-migrant and really wanted to create attrition through enforcement. Through this work, I've been able to advocate towards a pathway to citizenship, advocate towards removing police officers out of school campuses due to the overcriminalization of Black and brown youth. I worked in the special recall election of Russell Pierce and 2 campaigns to get Joe Arpaio out of office. And even though these 2 campaigns and all of this work was successful in removing these people from office, we still see their political culture engraved in the sheriff's office and at the state legislature. 2020, without a doubt, was rough for many of us. And in the midst of a global pandemic, we continue to witness the murder of Black lives. From an 8-minute and 46-second video and the murder of George Floyd to the murder of Deon Johnson by a DPS officer here in the state of Arizona. Many of us didn't have the option to seek comfort or safety and refuge in our homes, but instead were pushed to and forced to take action and demand police accountability and solidarity with Black lives. In late May of last year, I myself experienced an overuse of police power, and due to being a DACA recipient, was at the risk of deportation. And had it not been for my community for showing up for me, advocating for my release, advocating for ICE to not face me at a detention center, is the reason that I'm able to be here today. This experience allows me to realize and connect the fact that the Arizona State Legislature right now is trying to introduce bills in direct retaliation towards the uprising that happened at the end of last year. There's a lot of bills, and in particular HB 2309, which aims to criminalize protesting, and HB 2295, which aims to allow mandatory have active police officers in oversight committees. And we have seen in the local and national media, especially recently, in the news of political prosecutions, that police cannot and should not be investigated themselves. In a world post-COVID and towards liberation, we are truly able to engage with each other instead of engaging with police. And we are no longer hearing stories of officer-involved shootings, mass shootings, and envisioning a community where mutual aid is common, where joy is common, and where we are truly able to help, support, and provide for each other. In a world post-COVID, it is not the systems of white supremacy and anti-Blackness that continue to be in existence, but rather it is a world where all of our basic human rights are met, and in a world where we are able to take care of each other. So I invite you today to take action, to join in this legislative fight, to fight against these systems with us, to use your privilege that a lot of us may not have, to take action, to call out these systems in your homes, to call out these systems at the state legislature, and to continue to work with us in a pathway towards liberation and justice. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laura Ilardo. I am the coordinator for the Keep Phoenix Together DACA Clinic. The DACA Clinic reopened in January of this year after 3 years of having it be closed to anybody who has not applied for DACA before. In the previous administration, it closed the door to many folks who would have been eligible for DACA. And with this new administration, we had reopening of DACA. So the clinics have reopened as of January, and I'm the coordinator for the DACA clinic here in Phoenix, the Keep Phoenix Together clinic. So the first question is, in my work with Keep Phoenix Together over the last year, I have seen 2 things. One is a sense of hopelessness turned into hopefulness. The first year, all of 2020, individuals were not eligible for DACA for the first time. And so there was a sense of hopelessness over the last few years of not being able to have an opportunity as others. And so there was this sense of just utter hopelessness. And in January, as the DACA was renewed and reopened, it turned into the sense of hopefulness, where now people feel as though they can have a level playing field and are able to take advantage of the DACA program, and have been applying and have been super excited about their future in a time last year where they were not able to. And the other thing that I have noticed in the past year is really a coming together of community and individuals for a common good. When DACA reopened, when the Keep Phoenix Together Clinic reopened, just seeing energized volunteers, energized people in the community saying, I don't know, how to do this, but please train me. I want to help. This is something I can do. And really seeing all these groups come together to really push the DACA clinic forward. And that has been super hopeful and nice to see in this past year, especially with COVID being so difficult. And then the second question, my dream for Arizona in a post-COVID world is, and the best way to answer it is through the voice of one of our clients that received a scholarship at the DACA clinic last month. She filled out an application that included her narrative of why of why she needed the scholarship and what was going on in her life. And she gave permission to share this narration. This really sums up what I would see my dream for a post-COVID. So she writes, being undocumented, I have faced many challenges, especially when it comes to being a teenager and a student. As a teenager, I don't get to do the same things as my peers do, such as getting a driver's license or even attempting to learn how to drive, in fear that I will come in contact with a police officer. I don't get the chance to get my first job and help my family with the bills, or spend money on teenager things like concerts, school dances, and amusement parks. Even with the idea of starting my own business, I wouldn't have the finances to even begin. Being an undocumented teenager makes me feel like the odd one out, especially when your friends and family forget that you can't do the same things as them. It really takes a toll on my mental health. As for being a student, I don't get the chance to go to the dream school because I don't qualify for government financial aid and student loans. While I am receiving a good education, I know I am not where I can be and do my absolute best. Aside from the challenges I receive from being an undocumented immigrant, I face many other challenges, especially with my mental health. So my dream for Arizona in a post-COVID world is that people like this client are able to have a level playing field and are able to do the things that their peers and their family and their community around them are able to do, and that they are seen as equals in the society and afforded the same ability and privileges that we all are. So that's my dream. I also dream that our volunteers in our community will continue to come together when needed, and that we will continue to stand up and work alongside our immigrant neighbors, immigrant brothers and sisters, when we see injustice, and to fight and to continue fighting. Thank you all so much. And if you'd like to volunteer, simply email me and I will send you a link with a training manual and a link on how to sign up for one of our volunteer shifts. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eddie Chavez Calderon, and I am the campaign director at Arizona Jews for Justice. Over these past years, I've had the enormous opportunity to be able to help over 40,000 asylum seekers. As numbers have slowly been decreasing, we've also seen an increase lately, and we are so proud to be able to provide logistical support for folks who need the most help right now. It's a huge honor and a huge privilege as a DACA recipient to be able to give back to my community, to be able to help those who desperately need it. Unfortunately, COVID has changed a lot of that. This is why we have adapted through wearing masks, to making sure that we are as cleanliness as possible, to making sure that everybody is as safe and healthy as possible. What I envision is a time where we adapt to what this pandemic did into what our future looks like. Not erasing, but adapting and creating a new tomorrow, where we have presentations on Zoom and in person so that everybody has access. A pandemic shouldn't stop our support. It should only fuel us to adapt to a better tomorrow.